Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures. And today, see look, we're going to be getting all these mod spotlights done. We're going to have a blast of a time over the next month or two. So this will be Planet Zoo Mod Spotlight Part 32. So we can see we've got lots of really awesome mods coming out for Planet Zoo. And we might have a DLC pack. I'm pretty sure we're getting a DLC pack sometime in September. So I wanted to get as much of these done as possible before they break in the next update. And we basically have to start all over again. But we got all these mod spotlights. I've got like 14 of them that I got to go through, so we're lucky. So we're going to be starting with these. We've got like a trifecta of mods that have all been made by the same two people. So we've got 3 different ducks and other different types of waterfowl or animals that live in water. We've got the ringed teal, the Harlequin Duck, and the common loon, all by Ronmayron or Rihanna and BongoHardwood. So all 3 of those are done by those people. So we're going to be starting with the ringed teal first, as we can see. If we duck through in here, where is he? Oh, look at that, wonderful, perfect. There's a male here, and there's a female. So the ringed teal are a small duck that are found in South American forests, and is the only member of the genus Calanita. They're usually placed within the dabbling ducks. They're actually more closely related to shell ducks and are in the subfamily Teluridae, and their closest relative is probably the main duck. So you can see here they have this colourful plumage that they retain throughout the year. You can see this one's a male, the female is a little bit more drab. You can see the drake, or the male, has like this rich chestnut back with some plain grey flanks. You can see he kind of gets that ring neck from this coloration here. That's where he gets the ringed teal. Really, really cool. And the females, let's find ourselves a female. She's over here somewhere. Looks like a female to me. You can see she's got a much more drab colour, not as bright as the males. You can see she's still got a very nice intricate pattern. Looks really, really good. And they pair bond easily, which is good, and they have this really cool contact call, which is like a meowing in ducks, or like a lingering pee-woo in drakes. So the female kind of meows, and the male kind of goes pee-woo. It's a really cute little vocalization. And these guys get pretty big, not like extremely big, but still decent sized animals. They can get on ringed teals on average about 14 to 15 inches, or 36 to 38 centimeters, with a 28-inch wingspan or 71 centimeter wingspan. And individuals typically weigh between 11 and 12 ounces, or 310 to 340 grams. And you can also see, like other ducks, they have these webbed toes that they use to paddle through the water. So these guys breed in northwest Argentina and Paraguay, and also occurring in Bolivia, Brazil, and Uruguay. And upon reaching sexual maturity, the ringed teals, they form these strong bonds, and the pairs bond for typically a single mating season, but can last a lifetime sometimes. The lifetime of a pair, so it really depends. The pair bond begins when the male courting the female, and in general, courting consists of some large amounts of preening, flashing the iridescent green patches on their wings, and swimming in figure eights to arouse the interest of the female while vocalizing. So yeah, once the pair is solidified, the mating occurs in the water, and they kind of just do their own thing, of course. Nests are usually created from these hollowed holes and tree cavities, and the nests are lined with down, and the female tends to be the defender while the male goes off does his own thing. The male, however, will defend the female and any other males and protect predators throughout their pair bond. So she'll be on the nest and he'll be out there keeping watch, like a good dad should. So, however, the females are pretty much solely responsible for incubation, and when the chicks are hatched, they're precocial. That means they are able to pretty much go right out the box. They're able to swim and follow mum, and if you know little ducklings, they pretty much hatch and go, so that's really, really cool. And although the chicks have a layer of feathered down, there's not waterproof, and since the chicks will spend most of their time in the water, they actually have to rub some of the oil from their parents to stop their, to waterproof their feathers, so they don't obviously get waterlogged, which is kind of cute. And speaking of babies, we'll have a look at one of these. Look at how cute he is. Look at his little spots. He's an adorable little baby. let's go back to talking. I'm going to talk about the male since he's the brightest coloured one. So both the male and female, obviously, as I mentioned, play a large role in raising and defending these chicks until they fledge at about 50 to 55 days old. The male, however, tends to be more invested and often will be seen following behind the separated or slower chicks. So he's a good dad. He keeps the chicks that are a bit slow. He watches over them. And until fledging, the chicks will stay with their parents and learn from them and learn how to forage and evade predators and things like that. And these guys' habitats include a bunch of like tropical swampy forests and marshes, marshy clearings, along with well-wooded woodlands as well. And they are predominantly aquatic, so they will eat a variety of aquatic plants and invertebrates, and as well as any seeds they can find, really. And even though they're classified as dabblers instead of divers, they tend to feed on plants that are insect material near the surface of the water, unlike diving ducks, which dive down. They kind of dab and just stay near the surface. And although dabbers may submerge their heads and upper torso while pulling the tails up in the air, also known as upending, they really completely submerge themselves and stay under a period of time, such as the divers do. And they can tend to live up to 15 years in captivity with an average lifespan that's not known in the wild for these guys. So yeah, really wonderful little teal that we got going there. Ring teals. Next we're going to move on to the next duck, also done by Ronmayron and BongoHardwood, as I already mentioned. We have got the Harlequin Duck. So we'll have a look at them there. Let's see if we can find a nice male. Oh, there we are. He looks wonderful. So these guys are a small sea duck, and they take their name from the Harlequin, which is a colourful dress, the character in French media, to say. And they're also known as the painted duck, the rock duck, the glacier duck, the white-eyed duck, or the blue shriek. Many common names for them. So adult breeding males will have these colourful and complex plumage pattern that you can see here. The heads have got this like really brownish red colour and a small round dot of white below the eye. Very complex, interesting colours that they got here. It's got I think the colour's technical term is chestnut, as you can see also as well under the belly. And you can see we can find our females here. Where are our females? There they are. Like other ducks, they're much more drab than the males, but still very, very cool regardless. So these guys get pretty big. They can get up to about 15 to 17 inches in length, or 38 to 43 centimeters. About 600 grams, 26 inches or 66 centimeter wingspan. And yeah, these guys also live in a bunch of cool, cold, fast-moving streams in the northwestern, eastern parts of North America, Greenland, Iceland, and eastern Russia. So they do live in these northern latitudes. They usually are found near pounding surf and white water. They like that. And they're short-distant migrants and mostly winter near the rocking shorelines of the Atlantic and Pacific coasts. And they're very rare migrants in Europe as well. And even though they're considered least concern, the eastern North American population is considered declining and endangered because of hydroelectric projects and the loss of life due to oil spills near coastal areas. So that can be a big issue for that local population. Let's find our male. Where is our male? Here he is. Wonderful looking man, doesn't he? So these guys feed by swimming or diving, but they also dabble. So you have dabble and diving ducks. These guys do both. They eat mollusks, crustaceans, and insects, and harlequins, you can see, have these smooth, densely packed feathers that trap a lot of air into them, which is vital for insulating their bodies, since they're quite small, and also makes them buoyant, that allows them to back up like corks. You know how like you drop a cork in the water and it flows back up? It's like the same effect for the duck, so they can always get to the surface as quickly as necessary. And Harlequin ducks, as I mentioned, like the ring teal, they're very, very monogamous. During the winter, they'll form multi-year bonds, though the males will really participate in parental care, so they're not as caring fathers. Young ducks will begin their courtship within the first year, and females will find success in their second year. Yet the males will really form a persistent bond before their fourth winter. And Harlequin males will have an alternate plumage during the winter mating season. So both females and males exercise mate choice preference and pair bond defense. So that means they kind of jostle with each other and figure each other out, see if they're high quality. So they really want to get the best quality mate they can. And either partner is able to divorce their pair bond to pursue a higher quality option. However, this behavior is uncommon. So basically, they're cheaters, and when they find a better one, they will go and find a better mate for them. Sounds like someone we all know, don't we? Well, we've probably heard some of that in people we know. So today, this is the only species in their genus, but there was 2 prehistoric Harlequin ducks that have been found. One was found from the Middle to Late Miocene in Oregon, and the other is from the Late Pliocene related to this guy. And yeah, really, really cool little animal. And BongoHardwood and Rihanna did great jobs with these ducks. Getting all these ducks. I love ducks. I really want a blue duck. Blue ducks are one of my favorite ducks. They're a native New Zealand duck. I love them so much. But enough about blue ducks. We're going to be having a look at a different group. They're not technically a duck. They are kind of a waterfowl as well, but very different. They're really, really cool. So we have got the loon. Common loon. Really wonderful animal here. Let's see one in the water. Look at this wonderful guy. So the common loon, or the great northern diver, is a large species of loon or diver family of birds. So you can see the breeding adults here have this plumage that indicates like a broad black head here with a greenish purple or sheen. You can see they've got these white spots down them and a lighter underside. Looks really, really wonderful. Cool animal. And non-breeding adults tend to be brownish with a dark neck and head marked with a dark grey body, and the underparts usually dark brownish grey with an unclear pattern on their shoulders, and the underparts, lower face, chin, throat are whitish. And the sexes, you can see they look alike here, but the males are significantly heavier than the females. And during the breeding season, loons live on lakes and other waterways in Canada, the northern US, including Alaska, and some parts of Greenland and Iceland. Also, small numbers breed in Svalbard and sporadically elsewhere in Arctic Eurasia. And common loons winter in both coasts of the US and as far south as Mexico and on the Atlantic coast of Europe. So they do come down in the US in the winter, where they like it a little bit colder. So common loons often will eat a variety of different foods, including fish, crustaceans, insect larvae, and mollusks, along with occasionally plant life. And they swallow most of their prey whole underwater, but in caught larger items will be threats to the surface, where they try to swallow them whole, of course. And loons are monogamous. That means a single female and male together will defend the territory, and they breed together for up to a decade. So that's very, very romantic, isn't it? So both members of this pair bond will build a large nest out of dense dead marsh grass and other plants found forming a mound along the vegetated shore of a lake, and the single brood will raised each year from the clutch, and one or two little olive brown oval eggs will be made, and they're very, very cute with dark brown spots and are incubated for about 28 days or about a month by both parents. So, fed by both parents, the chicks will fledge about 77 days, and the chicks are pretty much capable of diving underwater when they're just a few days old, and they fly to their wintering areas before ice forms in the fall. So, again, that's precocial. They're pretty much ready to go right out the box, which is pretty cool. I just love these loon, very awesome. So luckily, these species are considered least concern by the IUCN, and are one of the species which the Agreement of the Conservation of African Eurasian Migratory Water Birds applies to. And the United States Forest Service has designated the common loon as a species of special significance because of threats of habitat loss and toxic metal poisoning within the United States range. So that's also a very, very important thing to worry about. But luckily they are considered least concern. There's no very serious threats to their population right now. Though climate change, of course, since they do like it a little colder, could be an issue. And the common loon, here's a little fact, are actually the provincial bird of Ontario, and it appears on Canada currency, and including the $1 loonie, I like that, and the previous series of $20 bills. And 1961 was also designated the state bird of Minnesota and appears in the Minnesota state quarter. So that's very, very cool. Another awesome bird, as I mentioned, done by Ronmayron or Rihanna and BongoHardwood. And now we're moving on from birds. Now we're going to be doing a little bit of fishing at the moment. So this was done by Leaf. This was ported from Endless Ocean 2. We have got the alligator gar. So a really wonderful little gar we got here. Love gar. So the alligator gar are a ray-finned fish related to the bowfish, and they are the biggest species in the gar family and are the largest freshwater fish in North America. The fossil record of this guy traces back to the early Cretaceous over 100 million years ago. So this is a very, very old lineage. And they almost look prehistoric, don't they? Really wonderful. So they're often referred to as primitive fish or living fossils because you can see here there's some morphological characteristics of their early ancestors, such as a spiral valve intestine, also a common digestive system in sharks, and the ability to breathe both in air and water, so that can be an advantage. And their common name was derived from their resemblance to, obviously, American alligators. That's where they get alligator gar. As you can see, they have a particularly broad snout here that very, very vaguely looks like an alligator. So, anecdotal evidence also suggests that alligators' gars can grow up to 10 feet long or 3 meters, but the largest individuals that we see commonly measure about 6 foot or 1.8 meters or 100 kilograms, though the anecdotal evidence suggests that. The largest ones are the largest one recorded, I think, was about 8 feet long or 8 feet 5, so that's 2.5 meters. So that's not too much off the mark. Really wonderful animal here. So you can see they're also very torpedo shaped. That helps them swim through the water with little effort. They also have these really cool shape of like brown or olive. These are where they're fading into a light grey or yellow ventral surface. And the scales are very, very weird compared to other fish. They have Granoit Scales, which are like a bone-like rhomboid shape, so they've got 4 sides. And often they have serrated edges and are covered with an enamel-like substance. And Granoit Scales are nearly impenetrable and are perfect protection against predation. So these guys are basically armored to protect themselves from predators, which can include true alligators and also when there's smaller other fish and other things like that. And what's really weird is, unlike other gar species, the upper jaw of the alligator gar has dual rows of large sharp teeth that can be used to impale and hold their prey. And alligator gar are usually stalking. They primarily ambush predators, where they eat mainly fish, but also they ambush and eat the waterfowl and small mammals that they can find floating on the surface of the water. So that's a really, really weird way to go, but still interesting. So populations of alligator gar have been extirpated from much of their historical range as a result of habitat destruction, indiscriminate culling, and unrestricted harvests. But luckily there are populations now located primarily in the southern portions of the United States and extending into Mexico. They're considered Europhile because they are able to adapt to a bunch of varying salinities in different waters, so they can live in freshwater lakes and swamps, and also brackish waters like bays and estuaries and marshes along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. And sadly, for nearly a half century, alligator gar were considered a trash fish or a nuanced species, detrimental to sport fisheries, and were targeted for elimination by the state and federal authorities by the United States, sadly. The 1980s brought a better understanding of ecology. They learnt these guys are obviously very important animals, with being large predators. They regulate the numbers of other fish as well. And eventually awareness of these guys became more and more prevalent and led to their protection. So over time they were afforded protections by the state and federal research agencies, and also protected by the Land Sea Act, which makes transporting certain species of fish into interstate commerce illegal and in violation of state law and regulation. And several states and federal resources agencies are monitoring their populations in the wild and have initiated outreach programs to educate these guys. And they're actually become being cultivated in pools, ponds and raceways and tanks by federal heritage for mitigation stocking by universities, and for Mexico they are actually eaten. So that's pretty cool. Really, really wonderful animals. So that was done, as I mentioned, by Endless Leaf, and it was ported from Endless Ocean, or the company's ARIKA. So now we're going to be moving on to, we've got all mammals coming in now. We're done with all the fishes and the birds. We're now on to the mammals. And we've got the next one. We got this by Bubbly Wums and Leaf, who ported it for her. And also known as Jen. We have got the Musk Ox. Wonderful animal here. Who doesn't love a Musk Ox? We've wanted this bird for forever, and now we've finally got it. So, the Musk Ox, also known as, also spelled with the space in them there, or just Musk Ox, is a hoofed mammal from the family Bovinidae, so related to cows and other bovids, things like that. And they are native to the Arctic, and they're very famous for having this very thick coat, and the males have this very, very strong musk smell that they use during rut. And they also, females will usually use a musky odor as well to mark trails through the snow, and also use that during the mating season. So that's where they get the name the Musk Ox, because they have a very, very strong smell. So these guys normally live in places like Greenland, the Canadian Arctic, of the Northwestern Territories and Nunavut, and also reintroduced populations live in Alaska, Yukon, and Siberia. And an introduced population has been living in Norway, which came from Sweden, where a small population now lives. That's pretty cool. So these guys, you can see both males and females have these really long curved horns that you see here with this big boss, also this very, very long hair. And they get pretty big. They can stand to about 1.1 to 1.5 meters, or 4 to 5 foot at the shoulder, while females measuring up to 135 to 200 centimeters, or 4'4" to 6'6" feet in length. And the males are usually larger, to 200, 250, 6.6 to 8.2 feet. And they have to have this really short tail that's often concealed under a layer of fur that measures at about 10 centimeters. So on average, adults weigh about 285 kilograms, or 630 pounds, but can range from 180 to 210 kilos, so 400 to 900 pounds. And the thick coat and this large head with the boss here, you can see, is kind of makes them vaguely similar to bison, even though they're not that closely related. They're actually more closely related to like goats and things. They're pretty much just a giant goat. Really interesting taxonomy there. And you can see their coat has a mix of like black and green and grey and brown. That really gives them a unique color. And they also have these very, very long guard heads that you see, which they use to protect the softer and undercoat that keeps them warm, that keeps all the dirt and the water out, just protects them in general. And yeah, during the Pleistocene, musk oxen were very, very widespread. So they were found live across Siberia, the northern Arctic, from the Urals to Greenland. And the ancestors walked through the Bering Land Bridge to North America between 200,000 years ago and 90,000 years ago, where they pretty much lived all through all those areas. And they're native, in modern times, they were restricted to the Arctic areas of northern Canada, Greenland, and Alaska. And the Alaskan population was sadly wiped out in the 19th century and early 20th century. And their depletion has been attributed to excessive hunting. Also, an adverse change in the climate may have happened, or helped exacerbate that issue. And the decision with the United States Fish and Wildlife introduced the Musk Ox onto Nunavut Island in 1935 as a means of subsistence living, and other introduced populations have been introduced across Alaska and places like the Yukon and such. So it's kind of like a really early example of rewilding in the 30s. So rewilding has kind of also been a thing, and I think these guys are really, really cool, and have also been introduced into Eurasia, such as the Norway as well. The populations, like, as I mentioned, in Norway. But luckily they are considered good-natured and harmless, and they've actually been attempts to domesticate them or farm them. So they don't really attack people, so people are usually not too worried about them. So these guys in the summer, they live in wet areas such as rivers, valleys, and higher elevations in the winter to avoid the deep snow. They'll eat grasses, Arctic willows, woodland plants, lichens, and mosses, where they most commonly eat plants in the winter. Willows are one of them. And they require a high threshold of fat reserves in order to conceive, and which reflects on their conservative breeding strategy. So Winter ranges typically have shallow snow that reduce the energy costs from walking through them, and the I can't even speak properly. The primary predators of musk oxen are animals like Arctic wolves, which account for half of all their mortality, and other predators can include animals such as grizzly bears and polar bears. So these guys are herd animals. They live in groups of up to 12 to 24 in the winter and up to 28 to 20 in the summer. They do not really hold territories, but they do mark their trails with the preorbital gland, so that kind of helps them. And male and female musk oxen live both in age-based hierarchies, with the mature ones dominant over the juveniles. And they kind of just do their own thing and hang out until rut season, where the males will compete for the females' attention, where the big males here you can see will run into each other and like hit each other. It's very famous. If you've seen like any nature documentary with muskox, you always see it. They run into each other and butt each other like giant goats. Which is pretty awesome. So yeah, really cool animals. I think they breed in July. Was it the rutting happens in early July, late June to early July. And using this time, they will back up about 20 meters and just hit each other. So, while the bulls are more aggressive during the rutting season and make decisions for the group, the females take charge during gestation. Pregnant females are very aggressive and decide what distance the herd will go in a day and whether they will bed for the night. So, cows also have an 8 to 9 month gestation period, similar to humans, and the calves usually occur in April to June. Cows do not calve every year, and when winters are severe, cows will not go into estrus and thus will not calve next year, because their body is just not in prime condition for having babies. And luckily, when calving, they will stay with the herd for protection. And muskox, like other... We'll have a look at the baby while we're talking about them. And look how cute they are. How wonderful. So, like other ungulates, when they're born precocial. So that means they're ready to go out the box. They're able to run around and keep up with their parents. So that's awesome. They're usually able to walk around with just a few hours after birth. And the calves are welcome to the herd and nurse for those 2 months. After that, they will eat vegetation and nurse only occasionally. And the calf's bond will weaken with its mother after 2 years, and they kind of just do their own thing. So really cool. So as the conservation status of this guy was in decline because of overhunting. Luckily management in the late 1900s were able to bring their numbers back up. So the current world population is estimated to be about 80,000 to 125,000, with an estimated 47,000 living on Banks Island. And there are no major threats in Greenland, although their small population size may be the issue. And they are hunted for subsistence and are generally well managed. That's why they are not considered in danger. They are considered least concern. Yeah, they're considered least concern. Wonderful little guys. Look at the females. Beautiful females. We've been waiting for this mod forever. I love muskox. Really great animal. So yeah. Now we're going to move on to another. We've got like a bit of a tundra theme going on here. So this next one was made by Havoc 1199, Mega Rex Gaming, and Gaboy. So kind of the ultimate radical remakes people for Planet Zoo, doing all the remakes. We have got the Tundra Wolf. So we'll have a look over here. Really wonderful animal we got here. So the Tundra wolf is also known as the Turkic wolf, is a subspecies of grey wolf that is native to the Eurasian tundras and forest tundra kind of zones from Finland to the Kamantua Peninsula. So they're very widespread. And they're a pretty large subspecies as well. They measure about 118 to 137 centimeters, or 46 to 54 inches in body length, with females being 112 to 136. 44 to 53 inches, and although often written to be larger than C. lupus, that is untrue, and their average weights get to about 40 to 49 kilos, and for males, and about 36.6.41 kilograms for females. So the tundra wolf generally kind of lives in these river valleys, thickets, and forest clearings in the winter. And they feed almost exclusively on female or young and wild domestic reindeer, although hares, foxes, Arctic foxes, and other animals sometimes are targeted. So that's kind of just where they live. Usually they eat a lot of reindeer. And the stomach contents of 74 wolves, this is a cool study, in the 1950s, found that there was 93.1% reindeer, and in summer periods they feed extensively on birds and small rodents, as well as newborn reindeer calves. So reindeer populations are very important for these tundra wolves. That's something that needs to be an issue. Often with climate change as well, that'll affect both the musk ox and the tundra wolves. It will really affect any animal, but since these guys live in cooler habitats, these guys will probably be some of the most adversely affected, since they rely on that. Really wonderful animals here. So yeah, we're going to move it on from the... got all these... moving on from these guys, we have got the spectacled porpoise. So I saved this one on last for porpoise, pretty much. All the cool cetaceans. So... the spectacled porpoise is a small to mid-sized species of porpoise indigenous to the Southern Ocean, and it's one of the most poorly studied cetaceans, sadly, because they live in very remote areas in the southern part of the world. And while their little is known, what we know is mainly gathered from a few observations of living animals and stranded individuals. So, as with other porpoise species, you can see they have no beak. That's kind of like one of the definitions of a porpoise. They kind of have more like that. And there you can see they have these really small pectoral fins that are rounded, and also they got that really cute appearance. Really wonderful. And records of females range between 204 centimeters or 80 inches, while males may reach 224 centimeters or 88 inches. So about the length of a person. And that's about the largest one recorded so far. The maximum weight of these guys is 85 kilograms for a female, and the largest male was 110 kilograms, so about 240 pounds, so pretty big. And you can see they also get their name the spectacled porpoise because of their little round black spot that they have around here, almost resembling like glasses. So you can see that's where they get their spectacled. And you can see that there's really, really strong counter shading, which they use to hide from predators. See, look, if you look under them, you can see they blend in. Let's see if we can get a nice one. We'll look under him. So look, if you look under here, you can see it blends much more with the, you can see that one there, with the top of the water. And if you get him sitting like that, you can see, look at him there, they blend much more with the darkness of the ocean. So that's, counter shading is a very common thing in aquatic animals. So yeah, really, really awesome. And these guys are found to be circumpolar, so they're found all across the Southern Ocean, and there have been occasional sightings in coastal regions, and they do like cool temperate subantarctic or Antarctic waters, where they usually like it between 0.9 degrees and 10.6 degrees Celsius, so they like cooler water. Stranded individuals have been found all across the Southern Hemisphere, other places like southern Brazil, Uruguay, the Falkland Islands, a lot of the subantarctic islands such as the Auckland or Muskox Islands, New Zealand, Tasmania, a lot of these really, really cool areas. And sightings have been seen off the coast of south of New Zealand, the South Georgian Islands, the Kerguelen Islands, Patagonia, and 9 sightings have been made about south of Arctic waters. So yeah, pretty cool. And there's little dietary information available about these guys, sadly, but they're thought to forage on fish and squid, and there's been no observations of foraging behaviors in the sea, but the contents of their stranded specimen stomachs indicate they eat a lot of anchovy, cephalopods, and actually one found an ornate cowfish. That's pretty cool. So little is also known about the reproduction, but they estimate that the young porpoises are born at about 100 centimeters long, or about 39 inches, in the late spring or summer, so November to February, and there's no information about gestation or anything like that. So the population size and the interconnectedness is about the ocean is not known, so it's possible that some more information that we can find on that, but not knowing how many there are is kind of really, really not good for their population. But these guys are also probably likely prey for animals like sharks, leopard seals, and killer whales. And they have been observed scavenging birds such as kelp gulls, where they target spectacled porpoises, carcasses, and all that. And researchers actually uncovered a spectacled porpoise remain within the kitchen of middens within the canoe people who lived in the Terra del Fuego between 6,000 and 1,400 years ago. And it seems that a lot of these coastal peoples may have actually hunted them for food, which is a pretty little thing about the history. And the greatest issue with these guys, the greatest concern is obviously bycatch and getting caught. So they often get caught in things like gill nets, which are very, very detrimental to the populations of small cetaceans, like these guys. Vanitas are a perfect example. Also Maui's dolphins. And that's where you get a particular risk of that. Also getting caught in bycatch. In fact, for every pound of fish caught, there's about 5 pounds of bycatch, so not good. So, while these guys have been listed by the IUCN as data deficient, the species were upgraded to least concern in 2018. And while it's widely accepted that they are threatened, their strandings and may be unsustainable for the population. But the category as least concern has been applied provisionally until more data is available. So we see them quite regularly. There might not be any big issues, but with more information, it might be considered vulnerable, even endangered. So that's something that we should consider. Still a really wonderful animal. Let's see if we can find the baby. Where's the baby? There should be a baby in here. There he is. He looks stranded. That was very, very cute. Look, he's got his eyes closed. Wonderful little animal. So now we're going to move on from the spectacled porpoise to the Rizzo's dolphin. So this one was done by Nicholas Lion Rider and Leaf, and he did a really good job with that. I really like the Rizzo's dolphin. So we got another example of this guy here. So the Rizzo's dolphin is the only species of dolphin known from the genus Grampus, and it's commonly known as the monk dolphin among Taiwanese fishermen. Also, some of its closest relatives include false killer whales, pilot whales, pygmy killer whales, and melanated whales. So pretty cool guys. So these guys are relatively large and have a big broad dorsal fin. We can see the tapers here, and you can see they're usually grey. The infants are actually born there like a grey to brown with cream colour, as you can see if you can spot the baby here. Really wonderful. And you can also see here these linear scars that you can see down their body. There are lots of them usually. So you can see they're very common amongst these whales. But the Rizzo's dolphins seem to weirdly, they have a lot of these scars. And most individuals have 2 to 7 pairs of teeth all within the lower jaw. And it's estimated these scars could probably come from a lot of cetaceans when they bite each other. It's kind of like a social thing. They'll leave scars on each other just from nipping and fighting and things like that. Still a really wonderful animal. I really love the Rizzo's dolphin. Let's see if he's going to go on land. We're going to get one in the water. I think this is the baby. Yeah, this is the baby. Isn't he cute? So we'll find an adult. There we are. Really wonderful. really great. So typically these guys get about 10 feet long or 3 meters, or there have been some specimens that are measured up to 13 feet or 4 meters. And like most dolphins, males are slightly larger than females. And this dolphin species weighs about 300 to 500 kilograms and make it the largest species technically called a dolphin. So these guys are pretty found all across the world. They're found in Persian Gulf, the Red Seas, but not in the Black Sea. Pretty much found everywhere in semi-coastal areas. The preferred environments tend to be just off continental shelves on steep banks, with water's depths varying from 400 to 1,000 meters and water temperatures less than 10 degrees Celsius, but they prefer 15 to 20 degrees. There's a population across the continental shelf of the United States estimated to be in excess of 60,000 individuals, and in the Pacific a census has reached about 75 individuals in the east tropical waters and 85,000 in the west. There's really no estimate of the global population. So it's really interesting. These guys are almost entirely on neotenic and oceanic squid, and that are mostly nocturnal, and predation doesn't appear to significant. And mass strandings for these guys is also infrequent. And people analysing the stomachs of these guys, they found they prey on a bunch of species of octopus. They pretty much exclusively feed on octopus and squids and things. What's really interesting, there's also a population found on Santa Carolina Island, which live with the short-fin pilot whales. They both feed on squid and such. And the species not seen to interact with each other. They take advantage of the commercial squid fishing that takes place at night, and they kind of follow around the fishermen and try and grab any squids they can. And they also travel with other cetaceans, where they surf the bow waves of things like grey whales, as well as ocean swells and even boats as well sometimes. And also Rizzo dolphins have a very interesting stratified social organization. These dolphins travel in groups typically of 10 to 51. And sometimes they can reach super pods of like thousands of individuals. And these smaller groups kind of hang out and do their own thing. And long-term bonds also seem to correlate with the adult males, and younger individuals will experience less fidelity when they leave and join groups. It's kind of very plastic. They kind of just do their own thing. They're social, but they'll just do their own thing. And reproduction for these guys is very interesting. The gestation for them takes about 13 to 14 months at intervals about every 2 years. Calving reach their seasonal peak in the winter, the Eastern Pacific, and the summer and fall of the Western Pacific. So females will also mature at about 8 to 10 years old, and males about 10 to 12. And the oldest specimen reported is about 40 years old. Now, speaking of the baby, where's the baby? If we're going to speak about the baby, we got to find the baby. So we can find him. But he's swimming under the water somewhere. There he is. No, that's the adult. That's alright, we won't worry. Still really, really cute. So, like other marine mammals and dolphins, there have been documentation of them getting caught in nets and gill nets, and small whaling operations have been the cause of some of these deaths. And luckily in Iceland, although they're only not apparent in England, they're actually one of the royal fish, which in virtual are exclusive property of the English crown. So that's interesting. And in terms of conservation, they are, I think, they're least concerned, so not too many issues. Their populations around the world, there might be some smaller populations that are in danger, but generally, with a very wide range and quite common, there's not really too much concern. They're protected under the Marine Mammal Act of 1992 in the United States. Currently, places like Japan, Indonesia, the Solomon Islands, and the Lesser Antilles hunt these Rizzo dolphins for food, since kind of that's really the only thing they can eat. And there's been a couple cases of stranding. It was weird, there was one that was caught with a parasitic animal with the parasitic neuropathy, and it was also reported there was one that stranded alive in 2019. So it's kind of had this really interesting, and also been caught and rehabilitated. So really, really cool animal here. Oh, there's the baby. I think I found him. Look at you. Is that you? Yes, you are. There you are, cutie. Very cute little guy. Wonderful, absolutely phenomenal. So now we're going to move on to the last animal. So that one was done by Nicholas White, Lion Rider and Leaf, and this one's another port from Endless Ocean. So we've got something that's quite famous here, so let's see if we can find him. Let's see. We'll find him, because we want to have the most impressive one to show off. Look at this. We've got the Narwhal. So narwhals swimming in the ocean, causing a commotion. Why? Because they are so awesome. So let's have a look at this guy. So the Narwhal, or the Narwhal, are a medium-sized toothed whale that are very famous for this large tusk that they have. Sometimes they can have 2 tusks, and sometimes females can get tusks, like probably 1 in 500. And it's actually a canine tooth. It's not technically a real tusk. And the use for these guys, the use of the tusk, has been very, very curious. Everyone's been wondering about it for years. And it seems some more recent evidence suggests that they use it to stun fish. Also, they use it for jousting. Something that they use for a lot of things, so that's really, really cool. And their closest living relative is, of course, the beluga whale, and they've been known to produce hybrids from fossil evidence, and I think also just archaeological evidence that they produce hybrids, so that's really, really cool. So these guys are also pretty large. They're medium-sized whales. For both sexes, excluding the tusk, the total body size of these guys can reach from 3.95 to 5.5 meters, or 13 to 18 feet. And they range between 800 to 1600 kilograms, or 1,760 to 3,530 pounds. And at about 11-13 years old, the males will become sexually mature, and the females usually become sexually mature at about 5 to 8 years old. So females usually mature a lot faster than males, so that's kind of like in humans, as we all know. So, yeah, we'll have a look at the females, we'll have a look at the babies. Where's the babies? Here's a baby. Very, very cute, isn't he? Little baby narwhal. So, unlike a lot of other cetaceans, they do not really have a dorsal fin, which is theorized to be because of the sea ice. So, and they're not fused. And also, unlike most cetaceans as well, their neck vertebrae aren't fused, so they can kind of move their necks much more like belugas can. A little bit more flexible than other cetaceans, so that's pretty cool. So these guys are also primarily found in the Canadian Arctic, and such as Glenn and Russian waters, and they are very highly specialized for the living in the Arctic. They feed on benthic prey, mostly like flatfish, under dense pack ice that you can see the polar bears walking on and all that. And during the summer, they eat mostly Arctic cod and Greenland halibut, and other fish such as polar cod becoming a remainder of their diet. So, also each year, they migrate to bays into the ocean as summer comes, and in the winter, the male narwhals will occasionally dive up to 1,500 meters, with dives lasting up to about 3 or 25 minutes. And like other toothed whales, they use a lot of communication. Let's see if we can find a female here. We'll talk about this female. They use a lot of clicking sounds to communicate with whistles and knocks, and like their relative, the beluga, their relative, the beluga, is called like the sea canary. These guys make a lot of those similar sounds. Really wonderful. And narwhals are very long-lived. They can live to 50 years, but sadly they often die from suffocation after being trapped during the formation of sea ice. Other causes of death can be specifically to young whales, as starvation, and also predation from orcas. That can be a big issue. So the previous estimates of the world population of narwhals was about below 50,000. They were characterized by the IUCN as near threatened, though most recent estimates put the populations much higher at about 170,000, which is thus lowering them to least concern. And they have been harvested for hundreds of years by Inuit cultures and also northern Canada and Greenland for meat and ivory, and kind of hunting is regulated of these guys. And what's really awesome thing is that you can see the horn or the tusk of the male narwhal is very similar to what you consider on a unicorn. So it's often believed that they sold the narwhal horns as unicorn horns, narwhal tusks as horns, so they could kind of make a quick buck and create one of the most popular mythical creatures in history. So yeah, a really wonderful animal here. I really love these narwhals. Leaf does a great job, and also Endless Ocean is a really wonderful game. It really has some beautiful models that fit almost perfectly into Planet Zoo. Really amazing how they fit. So yeah, I think this would be a good place to end the video for today. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys will like and subscribe. Always remember to hit that little bell icon to get notified when I upload anything. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.